Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. I'm Chris with M7 Metalworks. I'm really excited because I get to start a new project today, and it's going to be an awesome one. It's this little reed vise. It's a number 103. So 1 just represents it's a stationary base, and then the 3 represents the width of the jaws. And a lot of guys are going to say, you know, Chris, why would you do such a small little vise? They're not really worth much. These little 3-inch vices are awesome, and there are so many things you can do with them. And particularly a reed, this thing weighs a ton. This is just one massive chunk of steel. They are so overbuilt, it's ridiculous. The quality on the reeds, if you watched any of my videos, you know reed is one of my favorite. If not, it's hard to narrow down, you know, the best vise in the world, right? I've got a lot of vices here in the shop. I'll try to give maybe a vise tour here sometime in the future, but the reed is probably one of my favorites. Well, I'm sure it's one of my favorites. It's probably my top 2. I really like the reeds a lot. I like Charles Parker's a lot. I like Wilton's a lot. You know, there's a lot of good vices out there. So we're going to look at restoring this. I bought this at our Covered Bridge Festival here in Indiana. We have about, I think it's 2 weekends in a week. So it was a 9-10 days festival. And it's basically covers 3 counties. So we have a ton of flea markets and a ton of yard sales. And I got this at one of the flea markets. The guy wanted $40 for it. And, you know, that's a pretty good price in itself. It has an issue. When I unscrew it, the jaw itself doesn't come with it. Now you can pull the jaw clearly, but the jaw's not coming with it. So there's generally a collar in here and a set screw and that kind of thing. So it may be missing in this vise. We're going to find out because we're going to pull it apart. Either way, I can make that. Those aren't a big deal. $40 is pretty cheap as far as I'm concerned. You got to figure a guy goes to the Menards or Lowe's here and they purchase a $100 vise, and it might be a 4 or 5 inch wide jaw. Doesn't have any more girth than this, has less to be fair. And it's made in China. It's nothing against the Chinese. I'm not racist. I don't hate the Chinese, but a lot of the stuff that we get from China is made of lesser quality than these old vices like this. You know, this vise is probably made, well, it's got some patent dates on it. So patent December 24th, 1912, and patent August 11th, 1914. So, you know, it's 2022 right now. Pretty good chance that this is a 100-year-old vise, or near it, 80 to 100 years old. And so the quality just was really good. Now, this vise has got some little boogers, welding boogers on it, and just different things like that we can address those no problem at all. It's got some, I don't know if someone hit that with a grinder or a filing. I'm not real sure, but there's a little thing there, and I don't really like that. That bothers me a bit, but we'll get her apart. And you know, the first thing we need to do is get it apart, get her cleaned up. We're going to need to get this collar fixed, and then we'll grind off some of these weld spatter. It's also got some nicks and some areas where it's been gouged. And we'll take a little flap disc to that and smooth some of that out. But we're not going to get crazy on some of that stuff. We'll just clean it up a little bit. The jaws look to be in really good shape. There's some wear on them, but it's not bad. So anyways, I'm excited. I hope you are as well. Stick with me. This will be a fun vise to restore, and it's a 3-incher, so it's not going to take much time at all. So we'll get it done today. So let's get going. All right, guys, let's get this thing pulled apart. I think the best way to do this is probably just get the... So you can see where that set screw would recess into that shaft, right? I'm wearing my chest piece today, and so I'm hopeful that this gives you guys just a little bit better kind of view of the disassembly of this. So that's my hope. Oh, we just dropped something on the floor. Look at that right there, guys. So, you know, we weren't sure what the deal was with this collar, and now we know. So the collar's intact. It's got a perfectly good set screw on it. No problems at all there. It's just the set screw wasn't recessed down. So that's awesome. And what that means is this vise isn't even broken. So that's pretty awesome. All right, it is, however, a little bit stuck. So they get to hitting on this stuff, and it causes, you know, the metal to deform down here. And just based on what I feel a little bit of deformation right through here. So let me grab a file, and we'll just file those off, and I'll probably allow that to come off real quick and easy. You don't have to get super aggressive on this. There she blows. Really, the only thing I think sticking, you can kind of tell just by what came out when we pulled it, is I think it just had some crud in there. I think the rest of that's just fine. You can see some of the, I don't know, the old packed grease and stuff just was kind of holding on to it. Look how thick that thing is. It's ridiculous. So we'll clean this up. We'll wire wheel that. Not sure what I want to do with this yet. I hate welding on stuff like this. I tend to want to keep its character a little bit, but that does bother me a little. The jaws look good. Look real nice. We'll clean this stuff here up with the flap disc on the grinder. I think the first thing we'll do is get this pin out, or I'm sorry, the nut out. You can see there's no pin. So normally there would be a pin right there. So we'll find a pin that we can pop in there, and that'll hold that in. For now, let's just knock that thing out. I'm using is just a little punch. So we'll, yeah, you can see it's moving just super simple. All right, there's our nut. We'll need to get all this stuff cleaned out of there. It's just got a bunch of crud. We'll have to clean that pin out, or the hole out where the pin was at. And yeah. Put in there. By the way, the pink fluid in the ultrasonic, that's just like RV antifreeze. It's what they put in the toilets and stuff of an RV. You can get it at Walmart for like $2 a gallon. That's why I use it. It's cheap, and I don't have to worry about it freezing out here in the shop in the wintertime. So if anyone was curious. I'm going to try to get rid of this. This is just a little weld bead that you know, fell on there when it was molten. I'm sure whoever was using this to weld with. So I ground it down with the flap disc, but I don't want to try to take it all off with the flap disc, because then I'm going to get into the teeth, and my teeth are already got some wear on it. So I want to try to keep as much as I can. So I'll use the file, and I'll see if I can't file that down. These are generally pretty tough just because weld spatter tends to be kind of hard. So but I stand my best chance of, yeah, see, you can already see it's kind of fading. Best chance of getting rid of this without doing a bunch of damage to the other teeth this way. Yeah, you can already see it's dissipating quite a bit. So you can see I'm getting a little shine on the other teeth. So now I'm getting into the realm of where it's not perceivably felt when I run my finger across it. So I think we'll end her right there. Got a little spot sticking up here. It looks like where that pin went in. Maybe the pressure was so much it actually drug some of that steel down. Either way, I don't like that. It would make the pins or the nut sit up a little high on the back side, and so no sense in keeping that. Let's just go ahead and we'll put it on the grinder and grind her off. That's more like it. Just rinsing this with water. I've scrubbed it and sprayed it with purple power and scrubbed it more, and you can see it's pretty darn clean in there now. All right, let's see if we can't get this thing straightened. Oh yeah, that's nice. Now let's this is a smooth jaw vise, this reed here, and so I don't have to worry about it doing any damage when this thing's hot and soft. So now we've got this part straight. We've gone around a few times and crimped it. Now we'll heat this end up. We'll put the ball on that side. We'll heat this end up and we'll make sure this end's straight. We've got her about straight as she's going to get. Yeah, looks pretty good. Okay guys, I think we're going to go with this Rust-Oleum hammered paint. It's a, I think bronze is what they call it, or maybe this is copper. No, this is copper, sorry. So this one's copper, and I've got about 1.5 cans of that, which is way more than I need for this. Get some of this flash rust off, and that's real simple to do. I'm just using some acetone in a little bottle and a little bit of Scotch-Brite, and that'll take that off. And of course the acetone will dry up really fast, and there'll be no rust there. So we'll do that, get this thing cleaned up. By the way, I did find a number as I ground on it. I don't know how, if all this will show up, but there's a 337 there. And I saw it on some of the other, let's see, right there. So 337 on this as well. So now I'm guessing that's just so they could match the different parts to the different vices, so that someone didn't try to put the wrong slide in the vise. It could also be a date, and it could be a March of 37. I've seen different vices do different things, and I'm really not sure what they did at Reed. I know I had mentioned doing copper, hammered copper, but I think I'm going to go with the hammered antique pewter from Rust-Oleum. And the reason is it's just a little bit lighter, and I don't have a vise in the shop right now that is this color. And I don't know that I'll be keeping this. I think I'll probably sell it, but because I don't need another vise. But I really like a lighter vise. I like the color. And I've already, like I said, I've already got a copper in the shop. So let's go with this here antique pewter. I think that'll give it a nice look. I've got the jaws taped off on both. On the inside, I've got just the inside of the, where the slide goes. I don't want paint there and causing that to hang up any. Same with on the rails on the bottom. Don't want the slide hanging up on that. Of course, I've got the slide over here taped up, and the jaws as well. And then I do have the back taped up because that's where our lead screw goes in, and it does rub up against this. So we'll have to have oil there. We don't want paint. So here we go. Let's get to painting. So we'll first just get kind of a easy coat, nothing too heavy. Now on the lead screw, of course I had to shape the handle and re-straighten it, but while it was warm I just went ahead and put some boiled linseed oil on there. And I really like the look of that. I want to get a nice heavy coat. Remember, if you don't put it on fairly heavy, you won't get the modeling. So kind of keep that in mind. Well, welcome back, guys. It's the next day and our parts are now dry. The paint has dried on them. Again, not going to be painting the lead screw. Won't be painting the nut as well, but we did go ahead and clean it up. Cleaned up the collar. Remember, this collar is what wasn't attached. It hit, the set screw was set into it, and it appears to me there's absolutely nothing wrong with this set screw and collar. So I did go ahead and kind of put this on the 220 belt sander and just kind of polish or shine that up a bit. Now there's some areas that are darkened, which means the belt's not touching them, and that's okay, because those areas will grab a little bit of grease and they'll kind of hold a little bit of grease in them. So I don't mind that at all. Kind of keeps things moving along. So first things first, let's get the nut put inside the vise. And then we've got to get this pin put in. Now remember, we were missing this pin. This is really the only thing on the vise that was missing. Everything else was there. So we've got to get that pin, and that pin goes in there. Now I've went ahead and cut that bolt off, and then I put that on the belt sander and just kind of narrowed that a little bit so it'll go into the hole a little easier. But we're going to go just a step further, and we're going to heat this end up and try to get that a little bit cherry red, and then we're going to bang it in there just a little bit. You know, we don't need to go in very far. 1/4 inch is more than enough. And then, but with it still hot like that, I want to kind of be able to bend it over. First things first, this is our nut. It does have some, it looks like a 3 1/2. So I think it shows a 3 dash 3.5. So that would mean to me that this nut is usable in the 3-inch jaws, which is what this is, and the 3.5-inch jaws. So they use the same nut would be I think the correct interpretation on that. So this nut goes in here. If I can get her to slide in. There we go. And that seems a little bit narrow, actually. I wonder if that's why that thing, I won't have to bend that thing over because it literally touches the nut. So that's actually a good thing. I don't mind that at all. So what I want to do now is I'm going to heat this up, and I'll put this in like that. That way I can heat it up and just get it stuck in there and then hit it with my hammer. Perfect. Now we just go right there. Perfect. Now that nut isn't going to go anywhere. Okay. We've got a little oil in there. Make sure we've got our collar in the right direction. And then try to line that thing up. Okay, snug it up. Now we should be able to turn. Yeah, it's good. Not a bunch of backlash there. So very little play. Next thing is, let's get a little oil on our slide. This is just gear oil, and I choose gear oil just mainly because it gives some lubrication, obviously, but it's also a little bit thicker. You could use grease in this situation, and I have on many occasions. I like the oil just a little bit better, only because it goes on a little thinner and doesn't get quite as messy over time. For the lead screw, guys, I like to mix a little bit of the grease with my gear oil, and it gives me kind of a pasty consistency, considerably thinner than just grease. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now that's more than enough grease or oil. Grab my brush. You don't need a ton. So I'll spread it just like this to begin. There we go. So now we'll put her in, engage that lead screw, screw it on in. Ah, look at that. Beautiful. All right, guys, so I went ahead and used a paint marker on the Reed Manufacturing Company, Erie, PA, USA. Real simple to do that. Didn't figure I needed to put that on video. Nothing interesting there. Let you get a good look at that modeling and how it turned out. Really neat. Again, you got to make sure you lay it on a bit heavy. So, and then of course I did the number 103 on this side. Put a layer of oil. I do need to put a little bit of oil on my jaws, just to keep them from getting rusty looking, or maybe some boiled linseed oil. As you can see, the handle turned out fantastic. I did use boiled linseed oil on that, and of course I straightened that handle out, and that came out beautifully. The vise works wonderfully. Well, guys, I hope that if you made it this far, these vices are something you appreciate just as much as I do. This is a great little 103 reed. It turned out fantastic. Now, a lot of people are going to, well, I won't say a lot, but some will criticize and say, well, you should have ground out some of the scratches and the gouges and the dings and the dents and what have you, welded up some of this stuff. And maybe if that's what you like to do, then go for it. That's not how I like to finish a vise. I like it to have a little bit of character in it. Doesn't bother me too much, as long as it's not super egregious. You know, this slide, the mark on my slide here it's close. It almost got a little bit of welding there, and I have done it on some others, but I just chose not to on this one. It doesn't affect it in any way, and you get to welding on that slide, I can cause that slide to warp or bow or something and then have some issues with it. It's a pretty tight fit. These things don't have a whole lot of play in them anyway. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the vise restoration. You know, somebody out there is probably wondering, what do you do with a vise like this? Well, if I didn't have so many vices here in the shop, I would keep it and use it. But at this point, I'm fairly vice saturated, but I still love vices. I think they're one of the most handy tools. I think they're one of the most unappreciated tools out there, particularly these old American ones, which you can pick up for pretty cheap. And if you don't mind doing a little bit of effort and work, you can make it a fantastic vise. Now, I got this vise for $40. So that's pretty cheap overall. You know, I bought them for probably closer to 20 in this size range before as well, and they were good vices as well. So $40 is on the upper range of where I want to get one when it's broken. And remember, this one was broken technically because the jaw wouldn't come out when you turned a lead screw. You had to pull it out. And it just turned out to be a simple deal where the set screw wasn't set, and so the collar wasn't doing its job. Easy fix, but they're not always going to be an easy fix like that. So short of taking the whole thing apart at the flea market to find out what the problem is, you're not going to know that till you get home. So $40 for a broken vise is about all I want to do. That's as high as I would want to go. Now, other guys will want to know what I would sell a vise like this for. On a vise like this, you have to figure I've worked half a day on this vise. Literally 4 to 5 hours on this vise. Now, part of that's a labor of love, but also to get the vise in what I would consider usable, good condition. This is a vise I'd be proud to put in my shop. You know, you got to put some effort into it. You don't have to paint it. You could boiled linseed oil the whole thing and it'd look fantastic. And I've got some vises here in the shop that are like that. But I like the paint because, one, Rust-Oleum makes a really good hammered paint, and it seems to hold up really well. And I think it makes the vise look good. It also protects it really well from the elements, and just, you know, it's out in my shop, and so there's humidity and stuff out here, so things will rust in time. But a vise like this, I would put for sale for $200. And some people will say, well, I can get a 5 or 6 inch vise at Menards or Lowe's for $100. True, you can get one that's got wider jaws, and it's going to be half as much. But I will say this: the wider jaws, I mean, you know, they basically just take what you see here and then they put big wide jaws on it. If you look at the bodies, are still narrow. That's not how the old vices used to be. If you had a 6 inch wide jaw on an American vise, the body was nearly 6 inches wide as well. You know, these Chinese vices that you see out there, they have very narrow bodies, and they're not anywhere near as strong as this. They don't use the same ductile steel. They use a cast iron, so it's cheap, so it'll crack. You get to hammer on it, it'll crack. The whole body of the thing will crack. I've broken several. It's the reason I got into American vices. I got tired of breaking vices in my shop. And so a buddy of mine said, hey, you need to get an American vise, dude. Get one that's 50, 60, 70 years old and put that in here. Well, I took his advice. I found one at a yard sale. I said, man, Richard told me I should buy an old vise. This is an old vise. It looks like it's pretty well built. Bought it for, I don't know, I think it was $80. Actually, I think it was $80, and I bought it on a big 16-foot I-beam. So I got the I-beam and everything. Anyways, long story short, that vise worked out fantastic, and I still have it in the shop today. I use it all the time. It's never broken on me. I can throw hammers at this. Now, I don't abuse them. So typically, if I'm going to hammer on a vise, I will use my post vise, blacksmith vise. But these can take it. These can take a pretty good beating. And so this vise, though it would be $200 to purchase from me, it's 5-10 times the vices those Chinese ones are, because those are just going to break. At the end of the day, they're going to break. And they don't have the clamping force that these have. They don't have the durability that these have. Just a quality tool. I mean, these are such good quality, guys. I know I keep ranting about it, but honestly, what you get in a vise like this, made 50, 80, 100 years ago, is just so much more than what you get today, sadly, but it's true. Now, Wilton does make some pretty good vices still. I think maybe York makes some vices as well. There's some others that I'm not remembering right now. I think Morgan, now made by Milwaukee. Morgan vices are now produced by Milwaukee, and I think they make some really good vices. But every one of those vices, when you get into a good quality vise, one that's USA made and you know, built really tough, something like this, you're going to get into 500, 600, 800, 1,000 easily. This Wilton vise that I have, the 6-inch Wilton, I think that vise, to have it shipped to my house, I want to say it was in the neighborhood of $1,500 for that vise to be shipped to my house, for me to purchase and have it shipped here. $1,500 for a vise, and you can find them out there. Just they're not in great condition. You just got to repair them. You got to fix them up, restore them. So I hope that answers some of the questions that some of the guys have asked in the past, and maybe that you've thought about yourself. So guys, until the next video, I'm Chris with M7 Metalworks, your YouTube shop doc. Thanks for watching.